What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to GA Fan TV. I hope you're all keeping well. My name is Aaron, and today we'll be looking at 10 clubs that you need to keep an eye on in this year's 2020 County Championships. Now, I suppose first of all, it's great to have some Gaelic football and hurling back. I mean, it's absolutely great. We haven't seen any action whatsoever, of course, since March when the when the National League closed down, of course, because of COVID-19. Now, I suppose in the past couple of days or so, I mean, there's been the potential for a second spike. There's been a couple of clubs that have reported numerous COVID cases, and some clubs have actually had to shut down in Cork and here in Dublin. So we'll have to see what happens. I mean, look, listen, the county championships might not last that long, and there might not even be an All-Ireland Championship or a National League whenever it resumes. However, we're not going to discuss that today, of course. We are going to be looking at 10 clubs that you should keep an eye on in this year's various different county championships, and I'm not going to lie, I'm very excited for this. So if you're excited also, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's jump straight into it. Alright, so number one on the list, I suppose we have the most obvious choice, and that is Corofin. I mean, I was never going to make a video like this and not include Corofin. And look, listen, we're going in no particular order. I don't want to rank these teams or anything like that, but certainly Corofin, they're definitely they're number one in my opinion. I mean, I think they've proved that in the past couple of years. I mean, they've won 3 All-Ireland club titles in a row. They probably would have made it 4 if the All-Ireland Club Championship was to go ahead this year. And you look at some of their other achievements. I mean, 4 Connacht club titles in a row, 7 county championships in a row. I believe that's the longest run out of any club at the moment in terms of consecutive county championships. I mean, they've highly impressed me in the past couple of seasons in the way they've conducted things, in the way they've achieved their various different championships as well, of course. And look, listen, they've come up against some various different opposition down the years. You think of last year, Kilcoo made it very difficult for them in that final, but they managed to get over the line. Coming up against teams like Nemo Rangers in the semi-final, and even in previous years as well, when they've come up against star-studded opposition in those years as well, they've always just seemingly found the answer, even when the going's been tough. I mean, even a lot of the times in their various different county finals, they've even had close battles with Tuam Stars when they've actually had to, win games via replays. So it hasn't always been easy for Corofin. I suppose, they have numerous talented players all over this team. I mean, you can look at the former All-Star corner forward Ian Burke, has led the line for a number of years, of course, in terms of Corofin's attack. You've got one of the best midfielders in the country, in my opinion, one of the best emerging midfielders, Ronan Steed. He's actually been around the club level for quite a long time, but he's only really making his mark now with Galway inter-county in the past year or so. And, you've got Liam Silk, Kieran Malloy. Very impressed with Kieran Malloy. I remember watching him versus Nemo Rangers. I thought he was outstanding. He was the 2019 Club Player of the Year, and rightly so. Very talented player, very good at offloading the ball, controlling possession, and I was highly impressed with him. And look, listen, I think their closest challengers will be Tuam Stars. I mean, look, listen, they were their closest challengers last year and the year before, so I think they will put it up to Corofin. And Corofin maybe in the early games in the county championships have often looked like maybe they might be beaten, so it's not impossible for them to lose, but certainly Corofin will be a team I will be keeping close eye on in this year's Galway Senior County Championship. Alright, so next up on the list we have East Kerry. Now, we actually have 2 clubs from Kerry on this list, and East Kerry, I mean, you could not exclude them on this list. If Corofin are one of the most exciting teams to watch at the moment, then East Kerry are exactly that, a very young and exciting team. And I put out a post, of course, on Instagram talking about which clubs I should keep an eye on, and I was looking for some of your guys' recommendations, and East Kerry was number 1. They were the club that everybody wanted me to speak about. And look, listen, they are definitely one of the most exciting clubs in Kerry and probably in Ireland. As one of my followers said, I mean, you could probably put East Kerry in Division 1 and they'd be quite competitive, and I don't disagree there, because you've got young players, obviously David Clifford, you have Paddy Clifford, Jack Sherwood, Dara Roach, Mike Foley, a number of highly talented players in this team. And I suppose getting over the line last year, winning their first county championship in 20 years, quite comfortable as well, beating Dr. Crokes by 7 points. And we'll speak about Dr. Crokes in just a moment. Dr. Crokes, a very experienced side, one of the most successful teams in Kerry. For East Kerry to get that victory and to do it so convincingly, I think they put out quite a statement with that result. Their first game will be against fellow Rangers, and I'll be excited to see how they get on. And again, of course, you would expect Dr. Crokes to be their closest challengers in the county championship this year. Okay, and staying on the topic of Kerry, we have Dr. Crokes. They are the dominant force in Kerry football in, the past couple of years, without doubt. I mean, they won 3 county titles in a row before they had that loss to East Kerry, and they were Munster club champions in 2016 and 2018. They were All-Ireland club champions in 2017. They've produced some of the best players to play this sport. You think of Colm Cooper, he was a Dr. Crokes man, of course, and they're a very experienced team. I suppose East Kerry, you could look at them as a young and up and coming team with a lot of young players and a lot of players coming through, whereas Dr. Crokes on the other side have a lot of very experienced players that have been in this team for quite a while. You think of the likes of Kieran Leary, Tony Brosnan, and of course Mark O'Shea in that team as well. I suppose they do have some inter-county stars in their team as well. Shane Murphy, of course, the goalkeeper, and Gavin White as well. Gavin White actually was very impressive in their game versus East Kerry. He scored a goal and a point. So look, listen, they'll be tough to beat. Their first game is against Austin Stacks. That'll be very interesting because Austin Stacks, of course, are a team that is always there or thereabouts in the Kerry County Championship as well. And the Kerry County Championship, I'm going to be honest, it's one of the championships, along with the Dublin County Championship and a few other ones, that I will really be watching quite closely, because I'll be very interested to see how Dr. Crokes respond from last year. Can they retain their title? Can they get it off East Kerry? And it'll be very interesting to see if these two come up against each other at some point, how that battle would go on. Alright, so staying in the topic of Munster, we have Nemo Rangers. Now, Nemo Rangers are the most successful All-Ireland club team. They've won 7 All-Ireland club titles in their time. And they're one of the top teams in Cork, one of the top teams in Munster, obviously. And they're actually looking to win their first back-to-back county titles since 2006. Now, they actually would go on to win 4 county titles in a row back then. Obviously they were champions in 2019. They were also champions in 2017 as well, and they will be looking to make it 2 in a row for the first time since 2006. And very talented team, of course. They've been knocking on the door of an All-Ireland for quite a long time. They haven't won one since 2003, and it would have been interesting to see, had the All-Ireland Club Championship gone ahead, how the likes of Nemo Rangers would have done if they had got through Cork and if they had got through Munster like they did last year. Of course, they are the reigning Munster champions in 2019. So look, listen, some of their players to watch, obviously Luke Connolly. He's caught the eye for Cork for a number of years now. You've got Paul Kerrigan, who of course has been around for the past 10 to 12 years with this club. He's an All-Ireland winner with Cork, so he's been there and done it all. You've got Stephen Cronin, left corner back, very talented. Conor Horgan, and then of course Mark Cronin, a young emerging player. We spoke about him a bit before on this channel. I'll be watching them quite closely. Their first game is actually next Friday versus Valley Rovers, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on. Certainly the favourites for the Cork County Championship, and they are one team that I will certainly have my eye on in this year's County Championships. Okay, now we'll speak about 2 clubs from Dublin, and we'll start with Ballybowden St Enda's. What can you say about these guys? They have been fantastic over the past couple of years. They've certainly took over as the best club in Gaelic football in Dublin, most certainly. And look, listen, the Dublin County Championship is always highly competitive. You have St Vincent's, you have St Jude's, you have Ballymun-Kickham's, you have Thomas Davis, who've come out of nowhere in the past year. But Ballybowden St Enda's are the team that is getting over the line and getting the job done. And last year they done exactly that. They won the Dublin Senior Championship, and then they won the Leinster Championship as well. I think they deserve a lot of credit, St Enda's, for how they've actually done things, because they're one of a very few clubs to have actually had success in the past decade at almost every level. They also won the Hurling County Championship in Dublin, ladies football and the camogie teams all won championships as well. So high amount of credit goes for Ballybowden St Enda's. They're clearly a very busy club. The fact they've been able to have success at so many different levels, I think, shows how well they have done. They're an experienced team. That's kind of one thing about Ballybowden St Enda's. I suppose it's one thing with a lot of clubs You know, you have a lot of very experienced players in a lot of these clubs. Certainly St Enda's are one of them. You know, you've Conal Keeney, who's still going around, believe it or not. You have Michael Dara Macaulay. He was one of my top 10 players of the decade, and certainly one of the best midfielders to ever play Gaelic football. Colm and Ryan Basquel, who have broke onto the scene even with Dublin this year. You know, I feel like they're two players that need to get involved with Dublin more. And you know, as we said before, the Dublin County Championship is always very competitive. There's so many teams around there, and look, listen, it'll be very interesting to see how they get on. They actually start their campaign with a match against Clontarf. So Clontarf actually not too far from where I am, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on in that game. But certainly Ballybold and St Enda's, you would expect them to win that fairly comfortably. And then we have St Vincent's. Now, I mean, St Vincent's are probably my local club, in all honesty. I mean, a lot of the clubs probably around me are more intermediate and junior level, and they never really do anything. So St Vincent's has been the club that I've kind of closely followed. Now, I'm not a huge club man, but certainly my dad and a lot of other family members would watch St Vincent's, and they would go to a lot of their games. And I know quite a bit about them, obviously, for those reasons. And look, listen, they are the most successful club in Dublin football, but unfortunately they've fallen off the past 2 years. You know, they've had two very disappointing defeats to St Jude's back to back. Last year I watched the game and I thought it was just a horrendous performance, unfortunately, from them. I think they've relied quite a lot on the likes of Dermot Connolly and Mossy Quinn, and there's a lot of experienced players in there, but I often wonder, you know, is it now a time to try bring through some more players and try something a bit different? You know, Dermot Connolly's going over to the States and coming back, and he hasn't consistently been playing, even at inter-county level. You do have Enda Varley in there, very, very good player, of course, and Mossy Quinn, I mean, kind of similar to Conal Keeney, he is still going around and still playing Gaelic football, and fair play to him. And you know, he's given a lot of great service to this team. Cormac Diamond, Nathan Mullins the same, and it will be interesting to see how they get on. Look, listen, their last Dublin and Leinster title was in 2017. They haven't even reached the final in the past 2 years, and I feel like that's been the most disappointing from a St Vincent's point of view. St Vincent's will start their championship away at Whitehall Colmkill, so you would expect them to get over the line there. And it will be interesting to see how the championship plays out. But certainly for Vincent's, I'll be rooting for them. Hopefully they can come a lot closer than they have in the last couple of years. Yeah, certainly the past 2 years have been disappointing, but we'll see how they get on. Alright, and now we have a different club that probably a lot of people wouldn't expect to make it on this list, but it's actually Ratoath. Bit of a surprise club maybe to get on here, but you know, when I was having a look through a lot of different clubs, Ratoath were actually mentioned quite a lot on my Insta poll. A lot of people put in Ratoath, and so I figured, you know what, I'll have a look at them and see, you know, should they get on here. And look, listen, they done a great job last year. I don't really know a lot about them personally, but if we have a look through what they did last year, I mean, they won their first ever Meath Championship last year, and they were actually they were only playing junior level up until 2015. So when you look at that rise that they've had, now maybe you could put it down to the fact that Meath are not that good anymore, at least in, you know, 2016, 2017. I know in the past year or so they've kind of come back a bit, but I think, you know, they deserve a lot of credit at Ratoath. You know, they won the county championship very convincingly. They beat Summerhill, a 5-point win. It was a result that people were not expecting, because Summerhill had actually, you know, this was actually their third consecutive county final, and it's actually their third consecutive loss in terms of county finals as well. In terms of some of their talented players, they're a young side. You know, they have some good kind of young players in there. Eamon and Joey Walsh are, you know, some of their talented forwards. Brian McMahon, of course, he's on the Meath team. And then you've got young players in the under 20 squad for Meath, the likes of Dahi McGowan, Conal Ahern, Connor Rooney, all-star nominee like Conor McGill. So massive credit goes to Ratoath for what they've done last year. It'll be interesting to see if they can retain their crown. Now, I suppose if we talk just a little bit about the Meath County Championship, I think it's wide open. There's a lot of teams that seem to be winning their first county championship in the past couple of years. Look, listen, I'll be interested to see how that goes. Okay, and now we'll talk about a couple of teams in Ulster, and we'll start off by talking about Scottstown of Monaghan. So very impressed with Scottstown in the past couple of years. They'll be looking to reclaim their Monaghan County title that they dominated from 2015 to 2018. They won it 4 years in a row, and then unfortunately they lost last year to Clontarf O'Neills, and they claimed their crown. Of course, Clontarf O'Neills, they have some talented players in there like Conor McManus, for example, but Scottstown are the team to beat in Monaghan. And you know, when I was looking through various different reports of what went wrong in that game versus Clontarf, I suppose a lot of people would say that they just ran out of steam. They had a lot of difficult matches, they had a difficult full route to the final. Unfortunately, they just came up short on that day. Now, some of their most notable players, Rory Beggan, I've said before that I believe he's the second best goalkeeper in Gaelic football behind Stephen Cluxton. You've got Darren Hughes, Conor McCarthy, of course, as well. Conor McCarthy was actually looking very bright for Monaghan in the National League before it stopped. Be interesting to see how they get on. Their first game will be against Donaghmoyne, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on there. And certainly, I'll be looking forward to see how the battle goes between Scottstown and Clontarf O'Neill's whenever that game comes about, or if it does. Hopefully it does, but it will be interesting to see what happens nonetheless for Scottstown this year. And then we have Kilcoo. Now Kilcoo, of course, one of the surprise packages of last year, getting the whole way to the All-Ireland Club Final. And look, listen, what a year they had last year, winning the Ulster Club Championship for the very first time, a significant moment in that club's history. I mean, they are one of Down's most dominant clubs. They've won 7 county titles in the last 8 years, which I think is a significant achievement. And I suppose one of the most kind of significant things for Kilcoo is that they actually didn't win the county championship in 2018. So they'd won 6 in a row. They lost it in 2018, and it looked like maybe Kilcoo were coming towards the end of their time. Their manager had stepped down. But of course, in came the legendary Mickey Moran, who of course has managed a number of clubs, and he's also managed a number of inter-county teams as well. Most notably Mayo. He actually knocked out Dublin in the All-Ireland semi-final back in 2006. So Mickey Moran has done it all. He knows so much experience at inter-county level and at club level, and he's done an amazing job. Probably one of the club managers of the year. Getting Aidan Brannigan back in the side, Conor Laverty, Daryl Brannigan as well. He's got the best out of them, and of course, winning that Ulster Club title in 2019 is something they will speak about for a long time coming. So fair play to Kilcoo. I'll have a close eye on them. I would expect them to win the county championship again, and I think for every club it's disappointing there's no provincial club championships or All-Ireland club championships, but I suppose it is just kind of how things have gone this year. Kilcoo would have been up there probably again. I mean, Ulster's looking very competitive, but I would expect them to win the Down County Championship at the minimum. Alright, and then last but not least, we have Crossmaglen Rangers. I mean, we were talking before about Nemo Rangers being the most successful club title of all time. Well, Crossmaglen Rangers are second, and they've actually won the most county titles than any club in GAA history. So that says a lot. I mean, for me, they're a sleeping giant in Gaelic football in terms of clubs. They were successful for quite a long time at club level, and unfortunately in 2016 and 2017 it was actually the first time since 1995 that they had gone 2 years without making a county final. I suppose the good news for them is in the last 2 years we have seen a lot of recovery, and they do have a lot of very young talented players. And when I look across Crossmaglen, normally when they are successful, the Armagh inter-county team are very successful as well. You know, Crossmaglen started winning championships in the late 90s, and I believe that was one of the significant reasons for Armagh's success in 2002. Of course, their manager Joe Kernan came from Crossmaglen, so I think it's important for them to have Crossmaglen being a success. And when you look at some of the players coming through there, Rian O'Neill, Oisin O'Neill as well, Cian McConville, who are all relations of the great Oisin McConville as well. You have Aaron Kernan in there, Stephen Morris, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on. They start their campaign against Silverbridge. Yeah, I would expect Crossmaglen to make it 3 in a row in terms of county championships, and I suppose again disappointing that we won't get to see them compete at Ulster, but I think nonetheless they will have their eyes on Ulster in 2021, because I think it's now about can they take that next step. Certainly for Crossmaglen, very successful in the past couple of years in the Armagh County Championship, so it'll be interesting to see how they do again this year. I suppose lastly, before we finish up, I mean, look, listen, we have to give some honourable mentions to a lot of clubs that were mentioned in that Insta poll I put up. Rathcormac were mentioned quite a lot, and I know they were Waterford County champions last year in 2019. I think it's the first time they ever done it, so fair play to them. Crosserlock were mentioned, the young team in Cavan. Thomas Davis, of course, I mean, they kind of came out of nowhere last year, a team based in Tala here in Dublin. Padraig Pearses, I mean, they probably should be on this list. If there was 11 clubs, I think Padraig Pearses would have made it on here. Of course, they I believe they ended a 20-year drought winning the Roscommon County Championship last year. You've got Aeroga in there, of course, aside from Carlow, that played against Ballybone St Enda's in the Leinster Club final last year. You've Dunamore Ashburn. I know a few people were mentioning them as well. They're looking to end the 70-year drought to win their first county championship in Meath. Tuam Stars, of course, I mentioned them earlier, competing with Corofin. Of course, Ballymun Kickums, and Ballymun Kickums have some team. You know, Dean Rock is there, a lot of very other talented players, Philly McMahon, James McCarthy. So I mean, Ballymun Kickums have probably been underachieving in the Dublin County Championship for the last couple of years. I often wonder, is it because of the success at inter-county level that they're just not quite ready for the county championship when it comes around? But it'd be interesting to see how they get on. I think they're contenders as well, in my opinion. I'd probably put it between them and maybe Ballyboden St Enda's and hopefully Vincent's, but we'll see how they get on. Anyway lads, that's going to be the end of the video. Do let me know down in the comments below which clubs you'll be keeping an eye on in Gaelic football in this year's county championships. I am working on a video as well for hurling, looking at 10 clubs in that championships as well. So yeah, if you have enjoyed, do leave a like, hit the subscribe button, let me know down in the comments below. My name is Aaron, and I'll see you later.